I think tennis is one of the best sports for any type of entrepreneur or filmmaker or creator, really anyone. And I want to kind of talk about how tennis has impacted me and how it's helped me with some of the things that I've done. So the first thing that makes tennis great is that you're completely alone out there. It's not like other sports where you're a team and you can maybe take 5 minutes on the bench, or some games you don't even play if you're injured, or the time's running out, which you also don't have in tennis. Like, it's all on you and you have to finish all the way till the end. And that's kind of how entrepreneurship is, well, especially when you're just starting. You're more than likely starting completely by yourself, and that's, I think, one of the hardest parts, because it can be very lonely because you're dealing with all this uncertainty and stress completely by yourself. And I think tennis in that way is the closest to that for sport, because in tennis you're the same way. You're dealing with all the emotions that you're feeling, everything that, if it goes bad or good, you're all dealing with it yourself because you're completely alone out there. And I think in that way it's very similar to entrepreneurship. Second thing is the problem solving. What's cool in tennis is that there is no time limit. So you could be 6-0, 5-0 down and still be able to come back. It really doesn't matter, or vice versa. You could be up by a lot and still end up losing. What I think makes tennis so great, you can't run out the clock. And in that way, that's how entrepreneurship is as well, is there is no time clock. You always have to be able to problem solve, adjust, and kind of change your strategy. In tennis, if you're playing a certain way and it's not working, you have to pivot. You have to change your strategy. Maybe you're hitting too many balls to his forehand and you have to hit high to his backhand. Changing that could change the whole match. And that's kind of how a business is too, or filmmaking, really anything. You could have a problem and it's not working, or maybe even your business going down or whatever. But if you make one adjustment or one change, that can change completely everything, and all of a sudden things are going great again. Vice versa, like if you don't make an adjustment, maybe you start losing your business in that way, you start going down. That's what's very similar to tennis, and I think tennis really prepares you for that. Third thing is that every day is different. You know, as an entrepreneur, you probably know that like there's so many different roles that you're playing, so many different things that you're dealing with. It's not like confined to one box, like this is what you're doing today. Sometimes you don't know, like you're dealing with different problems, different issues when you start, for example, even compared to when you grow. Like when you're by yourself, there's these problems. Then when you have 10 people, you deal with these other problems, and 100, there's always new levels of what you're dealing with and problem solving that you're doing. So every day is different in that way, and tennis is the exact same way. You could have one day where you play amazing and you're like, oh wow, I'm playing really well, and then the next day you play on a different court with different balls, different opponent, and all of a sudden you play completely different. You're like, what's going on here? Because in tennis every day is different. You see the pros, sometimes they'll win a tournament and then for some reason the following week they lose first round, because it's different. It's a whole different surface, potentially different balls, different opponent, different mentality. It's every day is a little different, and as a tennis player, you're really well prepared for that, because you know that every day is different. You're not going to play the exact same way every day. Every day you're dealing with something else that might not be working, or you're feeling a certain way and now you have to deal with that, or you're a little injured, or whatever it is. So I think that's really cool about tennis, is that it really prepares you well for that. And then lastly, the fourth point is, I think tennis teaches you amazing resilience. I think that's the greatest thing about tennis. I think it's one of the mentally toughest sports that there is. Also for the reasons I mentioned before, like you have to be mentally tough to do everything by yourself. You're not relying or talking with someone unless you're playing doubles. But in singles, you're not talking with someone. Like, you're kind of in your head a lot, you know, you're figuring it out, you're trying to get through it and trying to figure out how to win today. You also lose a lot. In tennis, you lose a lot. There was this stat that Roger Federer shared, that he only won 54% of his points. 54% in his whole career. And this is a Hall of Famer, arguably one of the greatest of all time. And he only won 54% of his points. He won a little bit more than half. All the other ones he's losing. And that's the top guy. All the other guys that are top 100, like some guys that are ranked 90 or whatever, which is amazing, they're they're probably sometimes losing more matches per year than they're winning, which is insane. So you have to be really resilient to deal with the loss, because you're pretty much losing every week. Unless you won the tournament, every week you're losing. I think that's also different than some other sports. Because in team sports, yeah, like you could lose, but if you lose, it's not always just your fault. A lot of times it's not just your fault. You know what I mean? It's a team effort, but it's not just you. In tennis, if you lose, it's you. It's all you. Like you lost because of you. So you have to be incredibly resilient to keep bouncing back from that. And that's how entrepreneurship is too, because you lose a lot too. You know, like one day you'll make a great sale, then you'll lose that client. You know, same in filmmaking. Like you have a great day, everything's flowing, you're like, okay, this is going great. All of a sudden, one day, everything just goes completely wrong, or things don't go as well as you think. Or you make a movie and you're like, well, damn, this isn't the movie that I thought it was or that we were gonna make, and it's not as good as I thought it was gonna be. And you know, you end up in that way losing. And that's kind of what tennis is. Like, it prepares you for. There's a lot of resilience there that you get trained with, really. And I think that really serves you well in entrepreneurship. So those are all the reasons to me why I love tennis, obviously, but also why I think tennis is the #1 sport for entrepreneurship, for being a creator, for filmmaker. There's so many skills that transfer over to everything that I think tennis is the best sport for someone to learn, to play competitively, to grow up with. Even if you're starting later in life, I think everyone should learn to play tennis and really go through that and go through matches. I think it carries over to everything else in your life. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll talk to you guys soon.